All right. If you are here, you are my super fans, and I fucking love you guys. Breaking. This is back to Twilight. Do 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 do. Anyway, Breaking Dawn Part 2. Now, this was a very interesting movie, I will say. I look back on it and I think that it was very well done, and I think that I think that they just like, I think that um, chemistry was their chemistry was good. Um, I think that the fight scenes were well done. I think that a lot of the stuff was really well done. Some CGI was a little funky, like I'll explain that in a minute, but a lot of it I thought was really well done. The wolves, I think that they did really well with the wolves whenever they turn into wolves, like when like Jacob turns into a wolf, like I think they do pretty well with that CGI, but there's like Renesmee, even when she was in the womb, like grew really fast. Well, she like is growing super fast, and I don't know, that they didn't do so hot with that. And like Renesmee, I think they could have made her look prettier. I think she looked like was like wearing a wig or something. And that kind of was like, I was like, you just look kind of funky to me. Like, I mean, like, you look pretty. I'll admit it. You look pretty, but you just you don't look like what I wanted you to look like, okay? I wanted you to look one way, and you don't look that way. So I'm sorry. You don't meet my expectations. I was a tad bit disappointed with that. But despite that, it was okay. But despite that, I really did like this movie. So here's where it starts. Bella ends up becoming a vampire. Woohoo! Everybody's happy. Edward's definitely happy. And it's like been 2 days, and it's like, oh my god, blah blah blah. Okay. Now in those 2 days, some things happened. Now, this is one of those Jacob moments. Jacob has gotten very protective. In the moments before Bella had her baby, Jacob had gotten very protective of her, and in her, like the couple months before, she had gotten more and more protective of her, more and more and more. And it was very odd because of the vampire crossover. Now, we learn why this is the case. In the books, you learn it, and it's pretty interesting. And in the movies, I thought it was hilarious as to how they did it. So, werewolves in this series do this thing may occasionally imprint on a person, or I guess a vampire. Imprinting is basically where like you fall head over heels in love with somebody, and it can be even just like with one glance, and it's not even in love. It's like, and Jacob actually like explained it once to Bella. It's like you would do anything to protect them, to be a best friend for them. Your whole world revolves around them. It's not gravity that holds you down, it's them that holds you down. They are your center of your universe, basically. Well, Jacob ends up imprinting on Renesmee. Yes, he ends up imprinting on a baby. So he's like, he starts off running outside. So this is what we remember. Back up to Breaking Dawn Part 1. He runs outside. He's super fucking pissed off because he thinks that Bella's fucking dead and that nothing's gonna happen, and that this abomination of a baby is the end of the world. And then he comes running back inside like he's about to go and like kill this baby, because he's like, you killed the love of my life, because at the moment he thought that Bella was the love of his life. So you should die. So then he literally sees Rosalie holding Renesmee, and then he literally looks at Renesmee and just looks at her eyes, and he like falls to one knee and is like, oh my God. And he like imprints on her, and it's insane. It's so funny and crazy. And then like about 5 minutes afterwards, the wolves from the opposite pack that Jacob is in come, because they come to the Cullens house, because they're like, we're gonna attack because this abomination baby that's terrible, blah 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 blah. And they're like, you can't. They come to like attack, and like the Cullens are like, we obviously are going to protect what's ours. Renesmee is part of our family and everything, and like they're about to like get into this major fight, and then like Jacob literally turns into a wolf and is like, guys, guess what? I just imprinted on this fucking baby. And the whole thing is, the biggest rule is that you can't harm anybody who's been imprinted on. So literally the fact that Jacob imprinted on Renesmee saved the entire Cullen family, because now the wolves can't, the other pack could not hurt anybody in the entire Cullen family, especially Renesmee, which is epic and awesome. And so finally, like 2 days later, Bella wakes up and she's like, oh cool, blah blah blah, and then she doesn't realize her own strength, and it's so funny because she like hugs Edward and she's like, ooh, and Edward's like, ugh. He's like, you're much stronger than me right now, and she's like, sorry. And it's so funny, and they actually have grown in their dynamic, and it's like not everything is cringeworthy anymore. And then like they get their own little cabin in the woods, and they go hunting together, and she's really good at a lot of this stuff. So it's actually really nice and everything. But one of the funniest parts is when she finds out that Jacob imprinted on her daughter. She's like, you did what? You imprinted on my baby? And he's like, it's not what you think. It's not like love or anything. It's like, a protective instinct. It's like, I'll be your best friend, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's like, Edward's like, I can't be mad, but I can't be like, I can't be mad, but I also, I'm like, I'm grateful because he helped us, but also at the same time, I'm her father, so I should kind of be mad at this guy. So then like they get into this, Bella and Jacob get into this huge fight, and Bella's like throwing Jacob around, and it's so funny to see. It was probably one of the funnier parts. But then they realize like Bella, Jacob, and Renesmee are out just around, and they're catching snowflakes, and Renesmee is like looks like a little kid, but she's kind of, because she's half human, half vampire, she looks really, really pretty and can do a lot of the vampire stuff, and actually has like her own special gift and everything. But she can either drink blood or eat human food and stuff like that. So she can be she can look like what they call these things called as immortal children. And they were basically like crazed children that were made a long time ago. Like children that were turned into vampires, but they had no control over like anything, and so they just like kill everybody, and then like any coven would just really like protect them, and so like they had to be taken out by they're called the Volturi, and really they're terrible people, and The thing is, they have to, like, the thing is, one person saw them with her, saw Renesmee with Bella and thought that she was an immortal child, which was totally against the rules. So this person went to the Volturi and told them and said that you need to, you need to fix this and take care of this problem because they can slaughter an entire village and shit like that. Yeah, so that really fucking sucked because when we learned about that, like, everything changed. Like, that literally meant there could be, like, a full fucking war on. Like, a whole war could start if that happened. But because of that, things changed. Everything became more sad and somber and everything, and it was crazy. And then the Volturi, they learned from Alice, because Alice has visions of the future, was going to come to Forks, which is where they live in Washington, and, like, meet them on the battlefield, basically. And I liked their, like, seeing how Alice showed that. But then Alice and her boyfriend Jasper left. And they said, like, oh, we need to leave, blah, 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 for personal reasons. We can't be in this fight, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that makes heartbroken for Bella and everything. But then also at the same time, like, all this other stuff comes up. They want to get these other people, which they called witnesses, to prove to the Volturi that Renesmee is not an immortal child. She's a person, like, she's half human, half vampire, so that they can maybe stop a war from happening so that people don't die. Well, vampires don't die. So that's what they're trying to do. So they try to get all these people around, but then they also have to prove that by having, like, people see Renesmee, and everybody who sees Renesmee is freaking out because they're like, she's an immortal child, and then she like shows them, like, no, I'm not, ta-da, and everybody's like, no, you can hear her, like, heartbeat and, like, her blood flowing through her veins. She's definitely not an immortal child. Sorry, guys. Bye. So it's just different. And then Bella finds a note, because they live in this, like, house across, like, in the woods, which is kind of nice. Bella finds a note, and she goes to find a note. She finds a note in a book that was left by Alice, and Alice left it only for her because nobody can read her mind, aka Edward. Edward can read her mind, and also, yeah, Edward can't read her mind, so that's good. It's private. So what it is she has to go meet this guy who has, if everything goes bad, he has made passports for Renesmee and Jacob. And Bella's really like, wait, why is it Renesmee and Jacob? Why isn't it me and Renesmee and Edward? So she's like, I guess Alice sees us dying, and like, so she gets, like, really emotional and all that shit. Well, not really emotional, but it's like, well, that's a big deal. And I like how they had that in there, because I forgot about that in the book, and I forgot that was in the book. So to have that in the movie was good, and I liked that was in there. And then finally the battle comes up. I finally get to the battle. And now things get interesting. They meet them on the battlefield. They meet the Volturi on the battlefield. And Carlisle's like, let's make this civil and everything. As you can tell, this is not an immortal child, blah, blah, blah. She's actually just a normal child, a child between a human and a vampire, blah, blah, blah. And the Volturi are looking for any reason to go to war with the Cullens and all these witnesses that they have there. One of the people can like read people's every thought and everything. But he's like, why don't you? So, but he wants to like read Carlisle's thoughts and Edward's thoughts, and then also Renesmee's thoughts. And Renesmee lets him and everything. But like, and they think that this is all gonna go well and done. But they're like, well, guess what? This is unknown territory, and we can't deal with the unknown. We can't let the unknown be here, so we shouldn't let this happen. And then all of a sudden, out walks Alice, and Alice is there. And you're like, boom, bitch, drop the mic. Alice is in town. So Alice comes with Jasper, and this was my favorite part of the entire fucking movie. I will say, the entire movie was the best. She goes up to this guy who can read everybody's thoughts, and because she can read the future, he can also read what the future will be for her. He says to basically everyone, like, how do we know that this child isn't going to be a threat to us? And he tells him, well, I can prove to you that this child will not be a threat to us. And she said, here, read my emotions, or like read my thoughts and everything. And he does, and he grabs her hand. Well, he was going to grab her hand. And all of a sudden, you see Alice turn around and mouth the word now to Bella. And that's when Bella has Renesmee get on Jacob's back, and they start running away and like bolting. And then like Alice like backs up and is like, you wouldn't change your mind anyway. It wouldn't matter what would happen. It wouldn't matter what you saw. You would just, go to war anyway. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And then they decide they want a bunch of stuff happens, and then all of a sudden a battle ensues, and it's fucking insane. Like, Carlisle dies, but then like one of the bad people dies, and then like Jasper dies, and then like a wolf dies, and then like another person, then like another couple bad guys dies, and then all these other things happen, and it's a fucking insane battle. It's fucking amazing. I'm like, this is great. And one of the people who is like a bad character is Dakota Fanning, and so she's so funny in this role, but also amazing because she can like pretty much project. She has a power, and her power is like she can make people feel pain just by looking at them. Well, she's trying to do this, but Bella's like making sure that like it can't happen to anybody on the field. And so like she's like, oh no, oh god, and she's freaking out, and like then they take out like her, and then like you see in the end like the guy who's like the head of the Volturi council, like he ends up dying. And it's like, okay, a lot of people may have passed away, but this guy Arrow died, and it's like, so we technically won. And then all of a sudden you see Alice, and she lets go of this guy's hand whose name is Arrow, and he says that she goes, that will be your future if you continue on the path that you want to continue on now. So none of that actually happened. It was all a fake. None of it happened. It was just pretend. That was her vision. So she was showing him the vision of what would happen if he would continue on, because that was the vision that she would see, that they would there would be losses and casualties, but that one guy would die. So she's like, do you really want to play this game? Because you will die. That's how I know that they won't be, that she won't be a problem for you, because you'll be fucking dead. And I'm like, first of all, I read the book, so I knew that there was going to be no battle whatsoever. So I was sitting in the theater. I remember sitting in the theaters and I was like, this is a fucking amazing battle, but I know that it didn't happen at all. I was like, they literally stuck this in the movie just to screw with people's heads. I was so happy when I watched the movie that I was like, this is great. That they're just messing with people just to fuck with people. It was great. And then, I don't know. It was just that made my day. And then like, she's just like, okay, so that's how it's gonna be. And then they're like, the guy was like, it looks like we're okay. We can leave. And everybody's like, wait, what? And he's like, no, it's okay. Everything's good. We're fine. And then she's also like, yeah, and I also have some people. This guy is half human, half vampire, and he's no trouble at all. So if you have anything to like deal with, you can tell that he's perfectly fine and he hasn't been doing anything that's crappy. He's been living for 150 years, bitch. Take that up with him. So that was pretty good. And so there was no real battle. But it was super cool to see like a fun, interesting battle that wasn't in the book. And then after that, it was just kind of all nice and happy, because you learn that Renesmee is going to pretty much just grow up to be like about 17-ish. And then she's going to be with like Jacob, just like happy and everything. And everybody's all happy. And she stays in Forks, Washington with her, you know, her family. And yeah, they're all happy. So nobody's dead. Everybody's going to just be leaving him alone, which is great. And one last thing. At the end of the movie, so I should have said this. At the beginning of the movie, the one person whose thoughts because Edward can read people's thoughts. The one person whose thoughts he couldn't read was Bella's. Well, as a vampire, she learned to control that power and help it, like, and it's also, and she couldn't read thoughts, and other powers didn't work on her, like the pain thing, like it wouldn't work on her, and other things like those wouldn't all work on her. So it was just weird like that. She was like a shield. Well, she learned to control that and magnify it in Breaking Dawn. But then at the end of Breaking Dawn Part 2, you see her and she like lifts it off herself basically, so that Edward can see can read what her thoughts were from the day like she first met him to up until like the end of the movies. So it kind of is like a spread of the entire time that they're together. And it's like, aw, it's kind of sweet. So yeah, that is the end of the 3-part, very, very long Twilight video short thing. I am hopeful if you stayed with me. If you didn't, I wouldn't blame you. But guys, I did it for myself instead. Have a good one.